take the Alright. I'm gonna take the roll. I like doing it off the roll here for the side doors if I can. So put some water on this glass. This will be the wet shrink, right? We're not gonna dryer sheet it all up. There's no point in doing all that. You can, but I don't feel a need to do it. So grab our film, which should be liner in. Yes, liner in. So I like to just kind of unroll this stuff. If I had the box, I would just do it straight out of the box. Bottom edge. I always like to try to test the bottom edge to see how flat it really is. This one clearly there's a gap here, so there's a little bit of a bow, so I can't use the factory edge on the bottom. I'm gonna have to trim my own bottom edge, which is okay. I just want to know. So I like to have, when I cut my windows, I like to make sure that I have about an extra 1/8 inch to 1/4 of an inch on both sides. I design the window tint patterns for 3M, so I do a lot of the cars that are out there. If they don't fit right, it wasn't me, I didn't make them, but I'm just kidding. But when we design these, what we go by is how much room is there on the inside of this door panel to work, right? So some cars you have very little room to tuck that film in there, right? But you still have to have enough to where it just goes behind a little bit so you don't see any daylight. So not every car is going to be exact. Most cars, honestly, I do about 1/8 of an inch. So for me, when I'm cutting this, I'm going to cut it 1/4 inch wider than it needs to be, and then split the difference. Have a little extra on both sides. That's kind of going to be my center point. All right, so for this one, doesn't matter if I start on the bottom or the top first, or the sides rather. I'm probably going to just pick a side. I'm going to try to flatten this out. We have all kinds of fingers popping out of here, so I'm going to try to get a good flat side. And I'm going to trim it. You guys cut it on the card, or you guys mark it with a Sharpie and trim it on the field board? How do you guys do it? Both? All right. I teach both when I do it. I personally cut on the car all the time. I'm comfortable doing that, but in the beginning, I absolutely cut a bunch of rubbers back in the day, and you got to learn how to do that right too. There's an art to doing that. Whenever I'm doing that, I stick the blade out maybe about that far, so barely sticking out. When I trim this, if the blade's sticking out really far, there's a lot of wobble going on in there. And you start chewing up stuff, or you're short or long, so you want it barely sticking out. I hate this knife. It doesn't have good clicks in here. The Olfa knives that have the red dots that have like 500 little click options in there, that's the way to go. You can get it really nice. Like this one, I gotta almost have to hold it to get it about that far. It's kind of in the middle of one, so I don't really care for that. But again, barely. Trim the edge. The idea is we're not cutting the rubber. So I'm going to go ahead and get this edge black as I can over here. Run down the edge.
Oh yeah, I'll go crazy.
Alright. I got my one edge good over here. So I'm going to pull this thing about 1/4 inch over. That's going to be the entire excess that I've got for this whole window. 1/4 inch or so, right about there. Extra. And now I'm going to trim the front edge. Alright, don't need any extra up here. Just in the way.
See that? Get those 5/8. Just keep going.
Okay, so now we'll slide this back over, split the difference, so a little bit hangs over this side. little bit hangs over on this side, and that's what I'm gonna have that hides the edges inside. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and get my bottom ready to trim out. I'm gonna go ahead and pull the top, get all these extra fingers here. Pull this tight first. This smooth through here. Make sure my edge still has my excess there. Okay. And now cut the bottom. Okay, so this car here, you have the door panel off. The glass goes down, you know, a few inches down into the door. If you wanted to add extra at the bottom to hide it more, you could pull this back and slide it down a little bit. I personally don't do that. Most of the time on my bottom edges, I leave them sitting right on the bottom of the rubber here. And then when I roll the window down and cut the top edge of the glass, what's going to happen when I install it is I'm going to have to bring it down a little bit from that top edge because I'm cutting it on the top edge and I have to have a little light gap. So that little extra I bring down, that's the extra that goes down in the door for me. I like to have it barely tuck inside here. The less tucking I got to do, the easier it is for me to install if I'm not pulling the door panel off. If I'm pulling the door panel off, it doesn't really matter, right? But if you're trying to get it to where there's very little that tucks underneath it on the inside, that's the method I go with. So even this one, I might bring just a hair down so I can see down inside the door panel. Just a little bit here. And then I'll squeegee it down so it's gonna hold it in place. I have my excess on the front and the back. So we're good there. My bottom feels like it's like in a good spot there. So I wanna lock this top edge to cut it. I don't wanna cut it with this wobble inside here. So I have to, again, pull this thing flat across here so that when I go to roll the window down, which you're gonna have to roll the window down here in a second, if you guys can give me the power for that, would be cool. So now she's locked tight but smooth. So when the window rolls down, it's gonna lay like nice and smooth across that top of the glass. So I can trim it and it's gonna be good. So if you can roll this thing down like 2-3 inches, that'd be optimal.
Take that after.
Moving on.
Pull it. All right, we'll look for him. So I put it in the other car.